Hey there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Degrassi-isms video. And today we are taking a look at the 30 most shocking moments in Degrassi history, based on my knowledge and all that. Not everybody is going to be the same. I know everybody is probably going to have a different opinion, but I don't care. It just is what it is. So basically, someone did a Reddit post a week ago about, oh, and for clarity, this is being recorded on November 21st, 2020. So basically, what happens is that someone did a Reddit post saying top 10 shocking moments in Degrassi history, and then some people named some stuff off. So I decided to take the votes, like for every time someone mentions a certain one that I like and all that. I put down a tally mark and all that. So basically, I had 16 via the Reddit post gave me 16, and so I'm thinking, okay, I did a top 50 Degrassi shocks video. Like with all the clips. But unfortunately, YouTube gets pissy and all that, so basically I couldn't upload it. So I went through all them and basically made the tally marks for whatever moments got picked and all that. So anyway, I ended up with 30 moments. So basically, and I used the tally marks to determine ranking and all that. There were a few ties that I decided to break the ties and all that. Now this will be a very hard list to deal with, so bear with me. And of course, as always, everyone knows that these are my opinions. You may have different opinions. That's fine, and by marks and all that. All right. So without further ado, let's start this list. And for clarity, of course, I'm using my notebook because I'm not that good at memorizing things. Number 30 is me making this list. Okay, I lied. I couldn't find 30. I only added to 29, and I'm like, I can't think of a 30th shocking moment. Maybe maybe Emma's character changing from cause girl to boy crazy. That could be it. That could have been it. Number 29 is Fiona and her twincest area. So basically, as we all know, Fiona was a twin with Declan in season 9. She was introduced in season 9 of Degrassi, and basically, you know, she had issues. She had an abusive boyfriend. She drank a lot. She basically ruined her life and all that. But then, strange as it sounds, Fiona actually kissed Declan, and it made some society papers. A lot of people were like, oh my God, Fiona has a crush on Declan. But it wasn't. It was mostly because Fiona was scared that Declan was going to be out of her life forever. So she wanted to make sure Declan was in her life forever. I think she was jealous of Declan and Holly J because they both were made for each other. Total pricks. Number 28 is JT attempting suicide. Now in season 5, and this won't be the first time JT is mentioned. Basically, JT has to struggle with dealing with the fact that Liberty is pregnant. And so he tries everything he can to try to provide for the baby. And Jay pops out of the picture and basically tells JT to sell prescription drugs because, you know, people will pay massive amounts. JT does that, and then JT gets told off by Liberty. You have to stop this drug trade thing. JT realizes he should, and so he basically tries to get out of it, but the drug dealer won't allow it. And then JT decides to take some pills and put himself to sleep permanently because he feels he has let everyone down and he might be criminally charged. So thankfully, though, JT avoids massive prison time because of Liberty's dad being a lawyer. And that's when Liberty decides to give the baby away for adoption, knowing that JT tries he might actually cannot be a good dad and all that. Number 27 is Marco being gay. Now, I know this is very low on the list. Now, believe me, there were a lot of people on the Degrassi Reddit and myself to put tally marks of more than one tally mark. Just for context, only 14 moments had multiple tally marks. So basically, that's hard to believe. And I know Marco being gay. Now, of course, if I did this list like 10 years ago, it would be higher up. But Marco coming out of the closet being gay, being the first gay character in Degrassi history. Actually, not completely. Because I know Snake's brother was gay. But, you know, the main character, Degrassi main character, to suffer that. So anyway, basically, yeah. So Marco being out of the closet and all that, it was amazing. Marco was hiding his homosexuality for 2 seasons, and basically he decided to blurt it out. Spinner was not too pleased with it, but Spinner, through insight, decides to finally accept Marco for who he is. I know Marco had a hard time coming out of the closet to his parents, but he did. Number 26 is Jane's sexual assault. In season 8, Jane is in a storyline that she basically realizes her dad's back in her life. And basically, due to the fact that her brother Lucas embarrasses her because, you know, how Lucas is not accepting of Mia's kid, even though it's his kid. Basically, Lucas is a piece of dirt, and basically Jane was Anastasia Filari, but not Jane Fonda. So Jane basically had problems with her dad coming back to her life, and then she realizes about the sexual assault that she suffered. And basically, once Lucas learns about it, Lucas reacts perfectly and basically says he doesn't want his dad around, especially with his youngest kid could be groomed and all that. So Lucas does the right thing. Lucas admits his faults. Jane said, "Don't worry about it. We were just kids." But the worst part is Lucas was never seen after that episode. It just pisses me off. It's like, you know, I want to know Lucas' redemption song so badly. Number 25 is Ellie's cutting. Ellie basically had issues in season 3. Her dad was going to the army. Her mom was drinking heavily. And Ellie was trying to control herself. So she decides to use a Mac protractor or whatever and to slash herself to not feel a lot of pain, especially with her alcoholic mother and her father who was in Afghanistan. So basically she had troubles. Thankfully, Paige, even though Paige seemed to be a dirtbag sometimes, actually helped Ellie realize her cutting. And basically, Ellie gets help and all that. I think she basically succeeds in a sense, but I mean, yeah, that was hard to see. And of course, a lot of people in the universe would say that, oh, it's pathetic and all that. Especially in Montreal, because there were 3 girls who actually saw this episode and practiced cutting themselves and all that. And CTV had to issue a major apology. Number 24 is Paige and Mr. O. It's very shocking about those 2 guys. It's like, you know, why the heck would Paige be with Mr. O? And she knows he's a student teacher, and she knows that basically it's illegal in a sense to have a student teacher relationship, but she wouldn't let it go. Now, of course, you'd be thinking, why would Paige be with Mr. Olander after all that? Especially when he's a teacher. It's just pathetic. There is a reason behind it, in a sense. Paige, of course, had a shitty year in season 4. Her rape trial didn't give her results. Basically, Dean was off scot-free. Red came back to the school and all that and caused trouble with the shooting. Spinner cheated on her with Manny, while Paige was trying to work a job to pay Spinner's car off. And basically, yeah. So she was having a tough time. She was inside her own head, and she felt like she needed an escape. And she was with Mr. Olander. Thankfully, though, Olander does admit his own guilt and basically leaves Paige out of trouble. Paige basically is upset at herself. They do actually still date because technically Olander's not a teacher anymore. But he comes from the Yukon and breaks up with her. Number 23 is Wheels and a Tragedy. I didn't say it was just for next gen through to next class. So basically, one of the biggest shocks in the OG Degrassi universe was when Wheels having troubles with his parents who couldn't trust Joey and all that. So Wheels is persuaded by Joey to cut away from them while they go to the movies. And basically, Wheels sees Joey and all that. They practice their band stuff. Unfortunately, though, Wheels finds police cars in front of his house. He feels that his parents called the cops on him. But no, his grandmother told him that They died via a drunk driver and all that. Wheels, of course, spins out of control in a sense. And, his character just sucked and all that. It seemed like a guy who just basically couldn't grieve properly. And a lot of people said that. He went to jail for, ironically, being drunk and killing a 2-year-old. So, yeah, that was how ironic it was. Number 22 is Paige's rape. Now, I mentioned about Paige and rape partially in the Olander one, but basically in season 2, she meets a boy named Dean from Bartell, and she likes him. She goes to a party with him, and he ends up raping her. Paige basically feels ashamed of herself and doesn't know how to tell people that she got raped, especially with her reputation and all that. So basically, she tries to hide it in the fact, but then she goes to Sove and she gets the help she needs and all that. Of course, she writes a song about being deflowered and all that, like being taken advantage of, and Dean walks out on her. Basically, Paige goes after Dean. She tries to get her case in court, but it takes a while, and the justice system doesn't prevail. Paige loses her case. Everyone was shocked. I was more shocked about how Paige's attacker got off scot-free. Number 21 is Sean and Peter's street race from season 6. Now, of course, in season 6, Emma and Peter were dating, even though that it didn't seem like a good dynamic. And then Sean, for some reason, came back in the picture in season 6 and wanted Emma back. And basically worshipped Emma's ground and all that, the ground Emma walked on. But of course, Sean and Emma had their dynamic made Peter jealous, and Peter basically forced Sean out of Degrassi with fake drugs. Sean realizes what happens, and then he and Peter decide to street race. Sadly, though, a pedestrian gets hit by them. And basically, there was a lot of problems. Sean went to jail. Peter just got community service and all that. Of course, this led to everyone being upset that Emma would still be with Peter and all that. But then after Emma realizes a lot of things, she basically tries to destroy Peter and all that. And of course, as I keep saying, I think Peter got away with it, with how he put Sean. Like, he didn't get away with the street racing, but he got away with what he did to Sean for the sake of the relationship with Emma. But, he had nothing to show for it. Emma broke up with with Peter. So basically, yeah, and I'm shocked that Emma basically didn't force Peter to tell the whole truth about Sean, or else Emma would have. Maybe Emma did. We just didn't see it. Number 20 is Degrassi Nudes. Now, this was a shocking storyline from season 14. And that basically, Zoe basically decides to persuade the other girls to post provocative pictures of themselves for money so that they can get new cheerleading equipment, which was terrible out of that. Obviously, and Frankie got kicked off the team because she refused to do her part. And basically, she's told that she can't go to the cops because she's just a sympathy of everyone. Basically, Zoe's bossiness as being the boss and all that led to trouble, especially at a campaign stop for Mr. Hollingsworth to be mayor. It was amazing. Zoe finally, after Lola talks some sense into her, decides to confess to the police and all that, and she gets community service. She's lucky she doesn't get in jail for child pornography and all that for 5 years. The rest of the cheerleaders get detentions all through the year because of their problems. And that led to Simpson being canned and Pill brought in, and Pill's affection policy was the one terrible thing about her. I mean, the no backpacks, the no cell phones policy, fine. The cameras in the hallway, that could work. But she uses them with audio to spy on people so that she thinks she can do a good job. What an ego trip. Number 19, it's a racism plot from Next Class Season 2. Basically, this was a shock how, Degrassi went there with a racism plot and how they may have mishandled it. So basically, Northern Tech pulled a prank on Degrassi. Degrassi was getting them back with the volleyball team by drawing them as Sioux animals at Frankie's insistence because Frankie says they're called the Sioux. Sadly, though, she draws the co-captains as gorillas, and in black culture, that sucks. So basically, they protest everything, and then basically the whole volleyball team decides to pounce on Frankie for the common good, or for something, I guess, to be SJWs in a sense. Basically, they throw Frankie under the bus. They actually kick her off the team, and they wonder why Frankie doesn't get penalized for her actions from Simpson, but Frankie was kicked off the team by them. I think if they kept Frankie on the team, then Simpson would have done something about it. But yeah, it seemed like Simpson was in attendance, especially with Tiny being suspended for defending Lola. And basically, yeah, I think it was a school board thing. So basically, what you got is that there was a lot of problems. The alumni event in Throwback Thursday was a power cake waiting to go off. Basically, all this trouble towards Frankie, hatred towards Simpson, and of course to Tristan for trying to put a cap on things that seemed controversial. It's hard to say if Tristan was actually influenced by Simpson to keep things on the low down, if you will. But I think Simpson should be blamed for that. Maybe Tristan was hesitant. But anyway, yeah, it all came to a head. Simpson finally admits he wants a conversation with them and blah, blah, blah. Frankie finally, in the next episode, decides to take off her rose-colored glasses and apologize to everything. Blah, 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 everything. It makes a solid apology instead of her flimsy ones that she kept making. So basically, that's what happened. Of course, at the end of this storyline, there would be another storyline for season 3 of Next Class. And basically, what will be in the top 10. I'm not going to give it away, obviously. Number 18 is Shane. Now, Shane's story encapsulated from the OG era to season 3 of Next Gen. But the problem was, it wasn't mentioned afterward. So basically, Shane impregnated Spike with Emma. Shane's parents didn't want Shane to have anything to do with the kid, although Shane was giving his allowance to Spike for a while and then decides to balk and buy concert tickets. So basically, he takes acid from somebody. He falls off a bridge, either by accident or on purpose, who knows. I would say it's more by accident because, on acid, you don't have your reflexes and all that. He survives. He's brain damaged. He goes to special homes and all that. Basically, it was a shock seeing how Shane wanted to be around Emma and Spike, but the problem is that he just faltered, and he became a brain damaged individual who, season 3's premiere, Emma finds because her mother refuses to tell about her real dad because Emma's getting a new sibling in the world. But of course, thankfully, Snake explains everything to Emma in detail, and Emma understands, and Emma doesn't hold it against Spike. Number 17 is Rick and Terry from season 3. There'll be more about Rick Murray later, but basically, yeah, Rick pushing Terry onto a rock was terrible. I mean, Rick was abusive towards Terry. They broke off, and then Terry wants to find a boy to be with on a road trip because Jimmy's with Hazel and Paige is with Spinner. So, what's there to do? So Terry finds Rick. Everyone wants to keep an eye on Rick, but basically Rick storms off. Terry chases him down, and then Rick basically showed his violent side, mostly because Terry is being influenced by Paige and her clique. Rick, of course, has blood on his hands. He runs away from everyone. He gets pulled out of school by his parents. I thought he was expelled or something, but no. He was pulled out of school by his parents, and we thought we saw the last of him. Oh boy, how did we were wrong. Number 16 is Claude's suicide. Now, this was a big shock from the OG universe, and I believe this is the last of the OG moments and all that. I put 3 of them, but yeah, the highest ranked of the OGs stuff. So basically, what ends up happening is that Claude Tanner was a boy who Caitlin fell in love with. Unfortunately, out of Animal Thing, he left her high and dry at a protest, and Caitlin got community service because of it. And then Caitlin had a hatred towards Claude. Add on to the fact that his parents both didn't approve of him. Claude was upset, so he takes a gun to the school and shoots himself. Apparently, in the scene with Mr. Wellfish in English class, you can hear a gunshot go off. I guess that's what happens when you have better sound technology, like remixed and all that. So basically, Snake finds him in the bathroom and all that, and alerts Raditch. It was weird seeing those two have a dynamic with each other. But then again, it was hard to believe. So anyway, yeah, Claude's death. A lot of people thought it was selfish. Some say it was ugly and all that. Caitlin felt guilt about Claude's death, but Joey told her that basically Claude did it to try to get at Caitlin's head, and she shouldn't let that happen to her. Good old Joey. Caitlin then said, okay, fine. So yeah, Claude's death led to the benefit led to the talent show being a benefit for suicidal teens, which was great. Number 15 is Becky and Luke in season 13. Well, and Zoe being raped. Zoe being raped was one thing, but the problem with, the fact that Luke was one of the co-accused and how Luke's family decided to basically try to get Becky to do the family honor and basically help her brother out. Becky was conflicted. She was basically hated at because she was a strong Christian character that was really homophobic and all that shit. But most of it came from her parents and for her trying to please her parents, if you will. Becky decides, after Luke inadvertently tells her the whole truth, to basically tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help her God. Because that's how she was raised. Basically, Becky's parents put the freeze on her. Luke's in jail for 2 years. Becky basically hates everyone, saying that basically I'm having these problems because of all that. Now, of course, the Christian hypocrisy and all that led to light. But I'm just wondering if Becky and Luke's roles were reversed, would that have happened? I don't know. It's hard to go into detail. Number 14 is Emma and the Purple Dragon thing. It's kind of shocking how I got two people saying about that being a shock. Well, obviously it was a shock because to the American viewers, because when this episode came out in season 7, the American viewers got more censored things than the Canadian viewers, like myself. So basically, Emma wanted thing to be Purple Dragon Girl because Purple Dragon wanted to sponsor stuff in Degrassi's cafeteria. Emma then realizes that after being harassed about her weight and basically about the fact that she was a recovering anorexic. She figured she needed to stand up for the little guy, so she did. And then she was told, you can't spout your fuse while wearing that purple dragon dress. And then Emma takes it off, and then allegedly she flashes everyone. Emma gets many detentions. She doesn't get suspended or expelled because Hatzelackos kind of figured that Emma was doing it for a good cause. And basically, Purple Dragon still sponsors Degrassi, but then they change all their policies because they realize that Emma had basically lit a flame under them. Number 13 is Vegas Night, which was humongous in itself. Like in season 10, Simpson finally becomes principal after Hatzelackos leaves. So basically, he's more of a fun-loving principal and all of that. However, he's told that he needs to crack down on students' behavior at school. So he basically says, okay, fine. Despite the school board's objections, Drew's mom, basically he decides to put on the thing. But Vegas Night was a disaster. Fitz getting jealous of Eli and almost killing him. Allie and Drew in the boiler room. And the fact that Allie got blamed for everything by Mrs. Torres, even though Drew was kind of a jerk himself. And Sam and Holly sneaking off to basically do their own thing while leaving the party unchaperoned. Simpson was at a crossroads. Simpson basically decided to crack down hard. No extracurriculars. There are police officers at the front of the school, and you have to color code your uniforms and all that. You have to do all these changes and all that. The school wasn't too happy about them, and Allie went to a private school because of all the shame she suffered. Basically, Simpson was upset and all that. Some say he was very overreactionary. But, I mean, he wanted to keep his job. I mean, all that. He didn't have to be draconian. But little by little, he decided to waver. After Shantae does a protest, which gets some thinking, he tells the school that you do well, then things come back little by little and all that. You to earn yourself back in it, my good graces. Number 12 is Emma from episode 1. The first ever Degrassi Next Generation episode. Yeah, it dealt with OGs coming back for a reunion. However, the other plot was Emma talking to a boy over the internet named Jordan and all that. And basically, having a crush on him. And decides to meet him. Unfortunately, though, she's in over her head as it ends up being a overage man and all that. Who wants to take advantage of Emma. Thankfully, JT, Manny, and Toby basically alert Spike and Snake. They weren't dating at the time, but, Spike is Emma's mom, and basically they get Emma out of trouble. Number 11. Oh, by the way, that was catfishing before catfishing was in the lexicon. About 2008, I think it came in the lexicon, but this was 2001 when the episode came. Number 11 is Maya's overdosing incident in season 3. So basically, yeah, I know that the reason why Maya had her depression angle in season 3 was because of the season 2 incident that will be in the top 10. Basically, I got to leave it as its own event. So basically, Maya is upset over how she thinks she causes death and all that. And she's introduced to death porn by Syed. And basically, she falls flat on her head. Basically, not a lot of help and all that. And then she decides to go to Cam, basically. She still had those feelings for Cam. So basically, she decides to put music on and take some medication. She gives it about 20 minutes. She doesn't die. She thought she was doing something wrong, so she decides to jump off the roof. Thankfully, Sig and Esme find out something's wrong with her and basically help Maya get better and all that. Number 10 is Sean's attempted suicide from season 4. You'll be thinking, hang on a minute, how's that in the top 10? And what are you talking about? Well, after the incident that got number 1 on this list and all that, and it deservedly so, Sean was dealing with being a hero and all that. But basically, Sean starts to crack after his parents said some things about him. And basically, Sean confronts his parents saying that they're full of lies and all that. Ellie wants to know what's wrong with Sean. Sean refuses to talk. Sean then goes on the water ski. And then you could just see that he may have jumped off on purpose. But Sean realizes after being saved by Tyler, the boy he deafened, God bless him, he realizes that he had did something bad. He basically felt like he was in trouble because he shot Rick after Rick made advances towards Emma. But thankfully, Sean doesn't get in trouble because obviously, why would he be back in season 6? And the police never would have caught him back. Number 9 is Darcy being raped from season 7. This was huge. Darcy was this Christian goody-goody character that basically got in a relationship with Peter for some dumb reason. Peter basically got in her head and all that. Especially after Peter told Darcy to send pictures to this Adams guy. But basically, Darcy gets raped in season 7. She thinks she has sex with Peter, but she gets something spiked in her drink when she leaves it outside to go to the bathroom. Darcy is humiliated by the friendship club who basically refused to let her back in. She's upset at herself, self-loathing and all that. She basically falls down a deep, dark path. She blames Simpson for her problems because she's scared of telling the truth to her mom, practically. She tries to jump off the roof, but Manny saves her from doing that. Darcy admits everything. It doesn't get Simpson back to school because, they still have to do the investigation, but Darcy feels better. She then finally goes to Brad Camp and gets redemption for her rape and basically starts being a dangerous person. And then she goes to Kenya. But it's mostly because Sinead Grimes left to go to 90210. So, yeah. Number 8 is Craig playing chicken with the train and his basic season 2 reactions. So in season 2's premiere, we're introduced to a boy who basically takes photos of Angie, that being Joey's kid, with Emma. It's like, what? We don't know this, but Craig basically has eyes for Emma and Manny. But Craig's home life sucks. His father basically abuses him for no good reason and all that. And so Craig basically decides to play chicken with a train while talking to Sean and all that. But thankfully, Sean saves him from harm. Basically, Joey doesn't know what to do. But then the pieces start to fall together. Craig's problems are his dad. Angie even says something about it. And we soon find out that Craig's mom was Julia, the same woman who actually was with Joey until she died. And Joey, of course, had the problems in the first ever episode, moving on from Julia. So yeah, Julia left Albert, and basically Albert beats up Craig for the fact that with Julia gone, he can't take out his aggression on her. So guess who gets it right? Craig. Craig's dad comes back to his life at the end of season 2, but basically Craig doesn't want to see him. Albert dies off screen, and Craig doesn't know how to process it. Number 7 is Claire miscarrying in season 14. So basically, Claire to me was basically a character who got a lot of storylines put on because they thought that Claire could handle everything. From having lost a boyfriend to what seemingly to was her best friend, that being Casey DeJenna. Basically, her parents going through a divorce that Claire was always told that God would keep them together, and she loses her faith kind of in God. She has a cancer scare, and that kind of led to the miscarriage because she was shocked she could get pregnant because of her cancer. Well, it was in remission, but yeah. But basically, we don't know if it was Drew or Eli, but it was Eli the whole time. And then basically Claire ends up miscarrying him, because it was going to be a boy named Adam. And basically Claire and Eli at the border talk about things. And then that's when Claire decides to smash up the cameras because of Miss Pill realizing about Claire's miscarriage. Poor girl just couldn't catch a break, and they basically piled on things for her. Number 6 was the bus crash from Next Class Season 2. So basically, the bus crash happened, after the racism plot, because a lot of the Degrassi boosters were ready to go to the volleyball game, but they never arrived. And then there's a reason why. The news said that there was a massive bus crash. No one dies. Tristan is put in a coma. A lot of people said that was great because Tristan was a piece of shit as a character. I think Tristan was just worried about Maya wanting Miles instead of Tristan and all that. So he kind of was, he was biphobic, I think, too, because he wanted Miles to choose between him and girls. Miles ended up choosing girls, I guess. So basically, yeah. And Maya goes through her slippery path. Tristan, of course, when he says the line, anyone for pizza, at the end of the season 3 episode, when Maya, season 3 finale, basically everyone thought that Tristan was just basically trying to derive attention from Maya, but it was wrong. He just had coma brain or something like that. I think that's what it is. But basically, yeah, the bus crash was a huge game breaker. I even did a video about, did they really need a bus crash to further people's opinions, such as Maya's depression? Nah, I don't think so. Number 5 was Manny and an abortion. Now you've been thinking, that seems a little too high. But a lot of people put it there. It's shocking moments. It's not the most, it goes there moment. But basically, it was so shocking that the U.S. for about a year and a half refused to show the 2-part episode about Manny being impregnated by Craig. So Manny and Craig impregnates Manny. Manny doesn't know what to do because she doesn't want to be a teen mom and all that. Emma is, of course, furious because saying that Manny shouldn't abort the baby because she can carry a full term and have an adoption agency and all that. But of course, that's Emma being anti-abortion. Fair enough. So Manny doesn't know what to do. She has to get the abortion for her sake because she can't handle kids. Craig is, of course, upset because he wants a kid because, he doesn't really have much family left because, his parents are both dead. But anyway, Emma tells Craig that she agrees with Craig. However, the right to choose is on the woman's choice. And despite the fact that Manny did that, Emma said that if Manny was a stranger, I'd be totally ticked. But she's my best friend, and I can't let that happen to her. Which was strange. But it actually was a good ending because Emma could still be anti-abortion, or pro-life, if you will, but still defend Manny. I think Spike may have talked to her about things because Manny talked to Spike about it. Number 4 is JT's death. So basically, it's all about shootings and all that. All about gruesomeness next. So JT's death was number 4 for me. It actually only got 5 votes, including myself. So basically, it failed to crack the top 3 because the other 3 have 6. So basically, what happened with JT is that basically he was portrayed as a class clown who basically, was a fan favorite. And then, of course, he started growing up. He's getting in situations with Manny and Liberty by season 4 and all that. And then he impregnates Liberty and, he tries his best to be with Dad, but of course he fails, as I mentioned in the entry about JT's suicide attempt. And then, in season 6, he dates Mia, who has a 2-year-old named Isabella, and JT falls in love with her. Well, both of them. Liberty seems jealous and petty and all that, and Lakehurst just wants to beat the tar out of him. JT decides at a party thrown for Liberty's birthday that she, being Mia, is not the right one, and he should go after Liberty the whole time. I think he kind of fears for his life and all that because Lakehurst wants to destroy him. So he goes looking for Liberty, who left the party, but then all of a sudden, Drake Lampley, the redhead, decides to stab him in the aorta. I think he had some kind of orders or something like that. So basically, yeah, Liberty finds JT by his car and screams, "Somebody get help," and all that. And then JT dies. And, Liberty finally shows human emotions for the first time in a while when she cries over JT's death. Emma takes the death hard, mostly because it happened outside her house and at a party that Spike and Snake didn't approve of. So, of course, she's also upset that the fact that Manny decides to move home because Manny was living with Liberty at the time because of her dad's problems. And then basically Manny moves back home. Emma felt like she's lost an ally, and Manny refuses to talk to Emma about the problems. And that's when Emma blew off the deep end. But thankfully, though, things get resolved at the end of the episode. So JT's death was just crowning. Now, of course, everyone knows that Ryan Cooley wanted to be killed off. And he wanted to go to university and all that. But they could have sent JT somewhere else. Like he finds an acting job in another province or something. Just saying. Number 3 is Adam's death. From season 13. I would say 12, but no. I think it's 13. But anyway, Adam was groundbreaking for Degrassi. The first transgender character on a Canadian show. I think on a Canadian show. But basically on Degrassi. Adam was born Gracie and had troubles dealing with his mom, being Drew's mom, for some reason, not being approved of her daughter changing to a guy. I think it was mostly pressure from her side of the family. Who knows? But anyway, she finally accepts Adam as an FTM, female to male transgender. Adam basically gets a lot of friends and all that. He gets a few storylines that are great and all that, and not so great. Adam having troubles with dealing with Becky or Imogen. But Adam decides to go back to Becky and then decides to text and drive, which isn't good, mind you. And then basically crashes into a tree. Adam survives at first, but then basically dies soon later. Drew takes it hard. Becky takes it hard. Everyone takes it hard, as a sense. Because, I know the actress who played Adam wanted to leave, but, frig, it could have been groundbreaking. Another one I kind of hate about that. So Adam was huge in everyone's thing. They did a tribute to Adam during the graduation, which Adam would have graduated from. And number 2 was Cam's death from season 12. Now, a lot of people will disagree and say that Cam is bigger than number 1, whichever number 1 is. I think you all know what number 1 is. But it depends on the person's perceptions and all that. Because I grew up watching the Drake era, Next Generation, thinking Next Gen. And, when it started, I was 16. I was in high school at that time. Shows you my age, but whatever. So, yeah. So, basically, I'm a little biased. But you know what? Sometimes you have to go with the storyline that started things off for Next Generation. But anyway, yeah, you can kind of guess what number 1 is. But basically, Cam's death was huge. I mean, Cam came to town as part of a hockey team and all that. And Maya found attraction for him. But Cam was upset that Sid got under his skin and basically punched Sid out, got suspended, and then basically was not too happy with it. But he apologizes to Maya for everything. Maya doesn't know what to think of it. She still has cravings for Sid, but she still likes Cam and all that. Maya tries to help Cam navigate things because, Cam came from Kapuskasing, 10 hours away from Toronto. So basically, yeah. So Drew and everyone didn't see signs about Cam. Cam had troubles and basically didn't want to play hockey anymore. And people were upset, especially Dallas, because he wasn't being a team player. So basically, yeah, Cam sleeps over at Maya's. He leaves Maya's house and breaks up with her over a text. But then the next day, Poor old Eli. He had to see Cam's body in the greenhouse. And of course, Cam killed himself. We don't know how he killed himself. Some people even think that he may have taken drank some garden chemicals, which are toxic. As someone who worked at a garden center one summer, not too far ago, basically, I can understand what his problems are. So yeah, but whatever happened, happened. And basically, Maya seemed to be indifferent about Cam's death and all that. But it was mostly because she felt that Cam was being selfish with killing himself after, despite the fact that, he needed help and Maya would have helped him out. And basically that turned Maya into someone who was overreactionary with trying to save her friends from having the same fate as Cam is. And basically, yeah, Maya did all that. And Maya could have just admitted her problems with Cam and all that, and they would have understood. But she chose to stay silent and basically be a latchkey kid. I hate you. So anyway, yeah, so it really ruined Maya. And then, of course, that bus crash brought back bad things about her and all that with Cam and all that. Like, Dallas took it hard on himself. Like, everyone took it hard. Sig even took it hard, saying that he wished he had not said something to Cam that made him kill himself. But it wasn't Sig's fault, luckily. And number one is obviously, geez. I spent so many episodes talking about this, videos talking about the Degrassi shooting and all that from season 4, the Rick Burry situation. I'll try to be as cliff notes as possible in about 3 minutes. Okay, so here we go. Now, as I said about Rick and Terry in season 3, Rick hurt Terry and all that. Terry is in a coma. Terry's put into a private school. And then Rick somehow comes back in season 4. Everyone is shocked, and they blame the administration. Raj basically says that the school board and the police never said anything about him, and he didn't get criminally charged, so his hands were tied. Or so he says, but they might not have been tied. Regardless what Raj thinks and all that, Rick is not welcome back to the school and all that. Basically, they want to destroy him. Paige enlists Emma's help with trying to destroy Rick because of all the stuff. Emma agrees. They do the Orange Ribbon campaign to get rid of him. It turns into violence. Emma realizes her cause is basically turning into violence, and the fact that everyone refuses the fact that Emma wanted money from Rick and all that. It could have been a payoff and all that. So basically, Emma gets shunned by everyone for defending Rick. And this is when Emma had no friends because of her pettiness. So basically, Emma is in a friend group with Rick, Toby, and Heather St. Clair on the Rocky Brain team, but then Heather gets mono, so Jimmy steps in. Of course, Jimmy's one of the tormentors with Spinner and Jay and Alex, who basically want to destroy him once and for all. Rick finally retaliates in Time Stand Still Part 1 with the circle and the X's on people's cars, so basically they want to destroy him back. And they're more upset that, Jimmy's now on Rick's side of things. They do the paint and feathers prank. Emma tries to calm Rick down. Rick basically has the affection for Emma because Emma protected him. But Emma only pitied him, and Emma thought that was the right thing to do. So he's forlorn. He basically decides to go to his dad's desk, take a gun and try to shoot as many as possible. He almost shoots Paige, but Paige calms him down, and then he gets tricked by Spinner and Jay to go after Jimmy. He shoots Jimmy in the spine. Jimmy falls down. Craig ends up seeing the body for some reason. And then he goes after Emma, wants to destroy Emma for leading him along. Sean and him have a gunfight. And Rick dies from Sean accidentally pulling the trigger on Rick. Everyone's conflicted how to feel. Toby, especially with his problems, which were never quite explained. Emma, of course, having her dark period, her zombie Emma phase. She thinks everything's fine, but it's not. Snake, of course, taking offense with Radish, not protecting him and all that, and then that led to Radish's departure. I mean, the actor wanted to leave anyway, so. And basically, Spinner's guilt over having Jimmy shot and all that. Spinner does admit his guilt to Jimmy. Jimmy basically shuns him, and basically Spinner spends season 5 trying to get Jimmy back as a friend, and it works. There. I saved you a lot of time and effort. Usually when I try to paraphrase, I paraphrase a lot of things too badly. So basically, yeah, that was the most shocking thing. Rick putting a gun to the school. And regardless what you think, Rick was a villain, a total villain who would try to shoot people. That's all I have to say. So thanks for watching, and you have a good day.